Somebody's jamming. Speaking of college basketball, you seen Isaiah Stewart? He's nasty, man. He's amazing. I was watching him the other night playing. He's pretty unbelievable.
How's your basketball game?
Basketball game's all right. All right, I'm okay. I'm a spot up shooter.
Not the best in your family, though?
No, not the best in the family. Anna's team's doing great. You know, Stanford women's, they're number 1 in the country. She's been playing great, so it's been cool watching them too.
Russell, you guys have 10 wins this year by 1 score or less. You've won 7 on the road. How can those experiences kind of help you on the road come playoff time?
Well, I think we've had a great season so far. I think there's a lot more we want to do. To be able to get the wins on the road, to be 7-1 on the road was a big deal. You know, to be great, you have to win on the road. I mean, that's just the reality. I think, you know, from our experiences that we've been able to use all year, you know, just the close games and the tight windows, you know, in terms of how close the games have been. I think it gives us great confidence. You know, there's nothing that we can't do. We really believe that. There's no fear in our team, and we're excited about that.
What goes into being good in a close game?
Say again?
What goes into being good in those close games?
I think a lot of things. I think being patient, just having great poise, having great language, having great confidence. And then when it comes down to it, it's all about execution. You know, when the game's on the line, can you execute, can you not? Can you make the play, can you not? And you have to have ball players. You have to guys, you know, can truly make plays. And we got a lot of those guys that are making a lot of great plays. I think the offensive line's been doing a great job in those moments. And the defense has. They've been getting turnovers and have been really special over the past several weeks, and it's been really cool to watch.
How important is consistency to build up to that position to win the close games, like in practice, who you are and what you do?
I think it's huge. I mean, I think you have to have consistency in how you practice, first of all, just because it sets the tone. It sets the tone as a team, it sets the tone as a player, your career. I think all of those things that you want to bring to the table, I fundamentally believe that consistency is maybe the number 1 attribute you have to have. In a way, I think as a team, as a collective team, I think, you know, all the drills we've been doing, all the drills we've been repping, we just rep 2-minute, you know, for 10, 15 minutes there and walk through. We do, you know, a lot of third down situations, a lot of red zone situations that prepare us, and you know, so you know, preparing and visualizing those moments and being consistent in those and what we're trying to do and the fundamentals of it all allows us to be great.
So saying all that, nevertheless, young teams aren't supposed to win a bunch of close games. You guys are a young team.
Yeah.
So what do you sort of mark that down to? Why and how are you guys actually doing this?
Well, you know, it's a great question. I think, you know, first of all, you know, people say that young teams aren't supposed to win those close games. I don't see why not. You know, it's just, I think as long as you're not young-minded, you know, you can be young and fresh and all that, but you can't be young-minded. You got to be professional. You have to know how to prepare. You have to study. We got guys that study like crazy. We get them ready for, you know, for the week and everything else. And our study habits are great, you know, from the players to the coaches and everything else. And so I think that's the fundamental thing you have to have and be able to check off the box. And then I think from there, I think having great leadership. You know, Bobby's played a lot of football games. I've played a lot of football games. I think, you know, all the other guys. Tyler's been in a lot of crucial games. Dwayne Brown, you know, Clowney, you know, all those different guys. You know, we've been in a lot of different moments. And the game is the game, and you have to play it. You have to play it. You have to respect the game. You have to play it. You have to prepare the right way. And I think that allows us to separate. I think also too, in terms of being young, it was funny because yesterday I was working out and just kind of looking around, and I was like, because you know, as you go throughout your career, you get very observational, and I was kind of looking around, and I was like, man, this is gonna be a good football team for a long time. You know, it's a good feeling. And but the only way that you become great is by the work ethic, by the focus, by the championship focus, week in and week out. But we have that, you know, to know that you have that early on in young guys' careers. And I know for Bobby and I in our class, 2012, we had that early on, and this class has it. You know, and I think it's been a pleasure just, you know, helping lead these guys.
Russell, what did you think when you heard the news about Josh Gordon, and just what was your, I guess, kind of relationship with him during that time?
Yeah, I got pretty close with Josh. It just, you know, you're gonna miss him obviously as a player, but more importantly as a friend and as a guy that you got kind of bonded with pretty quickly. And so, you know, we've been staying in touch and all that. I just pray for him. You know, I really believe that prayer works. I really believe that just relationship and friendships work, and supporting, you know, no matter what we all go through. We all have stuff, and we all have things that we go through. So, you know, I'm just praying for him, rooting for him, you know, and he'll overcome. He's an overcomer. I really believe that, and hopefully he'll get another chance to play with us because he was fun to play with.
What was he like as you got to know him, and just what was he like in the locker room?
He was great. He got along with the guys great. He was a great worker. Had all those attributes. In terms of trying to be great in terms of practicing and being ready to play. And guys really bonded with him and really liked him. So, I know I did, and everybody else too. So, we feel for him. And so we're just praying for him.
What makes you think that he'll come back and play here?
I don't know. I just believe. I have For me, I have no other choice to just believe that he's going to overcome it. Why would you think the other way? I think that, for me and just my faith and all that, I just fundamentally believe that prayer works. Like I said, I just praying for him and just rooting that he can overcome.
How fitting or helpful is this environment, do you think, for him in particular?
I think this environment has been great for him, to be honest with you. I think that he really fit in terms of just the everyday part of the process. And since day one he got here, he was studying and working and highlighting and doing all the extra work. And he was biggest smile on his face. I think he's, I talked to him a little bit about that too. Just, he was just like, man, this is the place I want to be. This is the place that, has helped change my life a little bit, and I'm getting better. And I think that all those things, you hope that he can come back to us and play with us. But more importantly, it's about him, and it's about his soul, it's about life, it's about all the things that we all have to go through and overcome.
You've got a chance to pass Matt Hasselbeck on the all-time passing list. Do you think about those milestones at all during your career, or is it something you look back on later?
I think about. I don't really think about them until they come up. I guess. It's a pleasure just to play for this organization, to be here. So far, 8 years of my career, and I've been fortunate to play with a lot of great players, a lot of guys catching a lot of touchdowns, a lot of fun things have happened, a lot of wins and all that. And so I think all those stats do matter. At the end of the day, this is a production business. You want to produce, and you want to step on the field and be great every time you step on the field. I think that's my mentality. So to say that I don't think about those things, but those things definitely do matter for sure. It pays the bills and all that. But I think that at the end of the day, to think about other great quarterbacks like Matt Hasselbeck, a guy that I've gotten to know, just personally. We share a lot of the commonalities and stuff like that, and then also just as a football player, just spent a lot of time, several times together and talked about ball, and then just family and stuff. We spent some time together. So I think that it's an honor to potentially have that opportunity.
Even if you're not thinking about those right now, to get a Pro Bowl nod, does that help kind of just remind you of what it is that you're doing and where you've improved over the course of the year?
Yeah, I just think that, whenever you go into a year, you want to, number one thing is to win the Super Bowl, and try to do that, and so I think all the other accolades come by success and how you're playing in production. I think, to be named Pro Bowl again is a blessing, and it's really a tribute to the teammates I get to play with and all the things that they've been doing to make me look halfway decent. And I'm grateful for them, and just how they've been playing and their work ethic and their time and their energy. I think about guys like Malik and all the extra work he puts into. I think about guys like Joey Hunt and having to step up and play. I think, how Ethan Posick has worked to come back and, be ready to play football. I think, the addition of guys like Quandre and Clowney and how hard they've played. So it's a tribute to those guys, guys up front and all that. So I couldn't do it without them. And I think you put a lot of hard work in the off season and everything else to get the opportunity to be rewarded in that sense. But at the end of the day, the goal is to win it all. So hopefully we can do that.
Less than 2 weeks left in the decade. How would you reflect on these last 10 years for you? How you've grown, how you've changed?
Yeah, that's a long one. To keep it simple, I think about the past 10 years of my life, and just I remember getting drafted on June 8, 2010. The next day, my dad passed away. The highest of the highs you could have, to the lowest of the lows pretty quickly. To going through relationships and figuring out life and trying to figure that out, to transferring schools, from NC State to Wisconsin, graduating from NC State, and then going to Wisconsin and having an amazing time there for 6 months of my life, and then battling to figure out, you know, what I'm going to do now, training, going to IMG, training there, and got to meet a lot of amazing guys and people, and that's where I met Trevor Moawad, one of my best friends in the world. That's where I met Mark Rogers a little bit before then, in May of 2010, right before my dad passed away, and I was supposed to have a 30-minute sit-down, you know, lunch, you know, at Tobacco Rose, I think the restaurant was called, in Raleigh, North Carolina. And next thing I know, we spent 4.5 hours together, and he became my baseball agent and football advisor, you know, later on, and everything else, and football agent. And so, you know, those relationships you build, you know, and then, you know, I never forget, like I said, going back a little bit, I never forget just having to, you know, bury my dad, and just how heavy that was, but also knowing how what a blessing it was to think about where he was going, you know, going to heaven and everything else, to fast forwarding to after going to the Rose Bowl and winning the Big Ten Championship, going to the Rose Bowl and getting the chance to get drafted on April 27, 2012, was one of the best days of my life, you know, and fast forwarding to getting here, you know, May 11th, 2012, and getting the opportunity to come here and put the jersey on for the first time. And I was going to make sure I was going to do everything I could to rock the Seahawks jersey forever. And so fast forward, you know, get to have a great rookie year. Fast forward to go to the Super Bowl in my second year, win the Super Bowl. Fast forward going to Super Bowl again. Unfortunately, didn't go the way you want it to, but you realize that, you know, great things are in store. To fast forward into you know, being here, you know, going through all that process, and you know, meeting Sierra, you know, falling in love with her, the light of my life, and then having kids and having Sienna, and then, you know, being a stepdad too as well, which has been one of the greatest blessings of my life, you know, and just thinking about, you know, what it is to be a step parent, to be a stepdad, mom or dad, and just learning how to be a parent, and just you know, doing that process, and then having Sienna, just seeing what life is like, you know, seeing the miracle of birth, you know, what a blessing that is, you know, to think about, just, you know, God really handpicks us all. You know, He individually cares about each one of us, and no matter what we look like, no matter, you know, boy, girl, no matter what our race is, no matter what our socioeconomic status is, to all the kids I've been able to fortunately meet at Seattle Children's Hospital, to all around the world, to be honest with you, traveling, and you know, just seeing kids overcome cancer in different moments, to forming the Why Not You Foundation, to so many different things. I think to creating business and doing that with West East and our production company and Why Not You Productions and all that, to being here, you know, 11-3, getting ready to play Arizona Cardinals. It's a blessing, you know. And I think about buying my mom a house, which I've always wanted to do. You know, just having that ability to do that, you know, just by the grace of God and by having great teammates and great people around and surrounding yourself around right people. I think all of that has been a blessing. You know, there's been highs and lows through it all. Haven't all been highs, but there's been some lows. But you grow, you learn, and now just turning 31, it's I look back 10 years when I was 21. Man, I know a lot more, and I'm grateful for all of that. So, you know, I just think every day. I think the first thing I would say, if I could, you know, reflect back 10 years ago when I was 21, I think, you know, what I would say is, don't ever not believe, you know, just always believe. I think that's the first thing I would say to myself. The second thing I would say to myself is, you know, why not, you know? And then the last thing I would say to myself is, go for it. You know, I think those kind of three things have been kind of the fundamental driver for, you know, my life, and just belief and just overcoming. And the last final little note to myself is just keep praying. You know, at the end of the day, you know, no matter what you go through, no matter what you experience in life, there's going to be highs, there's going to be lows, there's going to be moments, there's going to be days that you don't feel like it. There's going to be days that, you know, you're on top of the world. There's going to be days that you feel like you're on the bottom of the world. But I really believe that prayer just really works and really helps.
I know you're a big believer in God's plan, but at the same time, when you get drafted on June 10th, you said 2010. I mean, that comes with it a particular set of dreams and visions and goals of where that career path goes. And so now looking back on that, are you able to appreciate just how ridiculous it is that now you're an MVP candidate, you're a Super Bowl champion, all these things, right, can go down the list like you just did, but at that moment, that's not even anywhere in your thought process of what might be possible for you now 10 years later?
I mean, it depends on who you ask. I think if you ask people closest to me, they would believe it. You know, I remember going to NC State and telling I never forget, I was going to get moved to safety my freshman year, trying, you know, spring practice. I'm in Tom O'Brien's office, and he told me, hey, I'm thinking about moving you to safety. And I was emotional. I was like, what? Wait, what? And I had played DB in college, in high school. I mean, I could play corner, played quarterback and all that. But all of that. And then I remember I said, give me 24 hours. I remember talking to my dad was on his deathbed at that time. He was in a coma. I remember talking really to my brother and just really praying about it to myself, really, and just asking God, what do you want? And I remember going back in his office and telling him, right in his office, and I said, "Listen, I'm going to play quarterback for you. You're going to name me your starter in 3 days, and I'm going to be freshman All-American. I'm going to try to be first team All-ACC, and I'm going to win multiple Super Bowls." And I said it just like that, and he looked at me like I was crazy at the time, and but it depends on who you ask. For me, I believed it. I haven't never not believed it. So I think for me, the hardest part for me athletically was figuring out, okay, am I going to play football? Am I going to play baseball? I think, am I going to play both? And so that was a difficult decision. But I've always believed in my dreams. I've never not been a person that didn't believe in anything that I've accomplished so far. Ever since I was little, I just had an imagination. I may have been smaller than most people, but I always believed it. And it's just a testament to just how my parents raised me more than anything else, and just by the grace of God, it worked out. Not every dream that I'm going to have later on is going to work out, but hopefully most of them do.
So even when you got drafted, you never closed the door on football in your head at any point?
No, not at all. I think I wanted to keep my options open because I love football. I love baseball, and so I didn't know which one was going to happen. I knew I was going to. When I went to Colorado Rockies, they knew I was going to play 2 sports. That was the whole deal. It's like, I'm going to go. I remember sitting behind home plate with Mark Rogers actually to my left, and I was sitting in Coors Field. And Todd Helton was actually walking up to the plate, and I had talked to him in the locker room earlier in the day, and he had obviously he played football at Tennessee behind Peyton Manning. Actually, he was the backup quarterback behind Peyton Manning, and I was talking to Troy Tulowitzki and those guys, and got to know Troy over the years. But fast forward, I remember sitting behind home plate, and Todd Helton was walking up to the plate. I said, "Mark, you think I can? I think I can play both." He's like, "Yeah, I think so too. Why not?" And so I remember sitting there just as he was going up to the plate talking about that, and so for whatever reason, by the grace of God, God chose me and it worked, and I'm just grateful for just believing in it, and sure enough, it did.
Remember what Tom O'Brien told you when you told him that you laid out everything that was going to happen?
He said, "Okay," and he said, "We'll see." He said, "Okay, we'll see," and I think that partially he was like, like the confidence, and then I think partially too, he thought I was a little crazy, but you can ask, there's certain people that know that's kind of been my mindset my whole life, just I'm gonna win, I'm gonna win, and I think that's just, for whatever reason, that's what I believe.
What was his reasoning for moving you to DB when he presented that to you?
Well, we had a bunch of quarterbacks at the time. It was me, it was Daniel Evans, it was Harrison Beck, it was Justin Burke and Mike Glennon at the time, and and so we were in a five position quarterback battle and everything else. And there's one person I also talked to that was kind of NC State, Dede Hoggard, who I talk to every week. He texts me every week. If anybody texts me every week, it's Dede Hoggard. He says he always sends me a text. And he says, "I believe in Russell Wilson," and that's always kind of kept me going. I remember sitting in his office just at tears, to be honest with you, like I don't know what to do, and everything else, and I think I could have been successful, at safety, but I think God gave me these big hands and ability to throw football for whatever reason. I was like, I don't think I can give him on this yet, so that was kind of, so Dede, if you're listening, he knows the story, and Trevor ended up knowing the story, Mark and everybody else, but Dede, I appreciate you.
You mentioned Children's Hospital again. I've asked you this many times, but
Yeah.
in particular, going there this time of year, and those kids that don't get to leave and are in the hospital before Christmas, what kind of impact and what do you see this time of year?
Well, anytime you go to Children's, it's always, it can always be tough. It can also be a joy. You go into it as you get to go. You go, and Sarah and I always talk about this, but every time you go into the room, there's different expectations, different beliefs, and everything else. I think going to Children's this time of the year is always kind of emotional, especially having kids now. It's even harder a little bit, to be honest with you. When I used to go in my first or second year or whatever, I didn't have kids. But when you have kids of your own, and you realize that those kids could be your kids. They could be some of these kids that you actually know, or some of these kids you actually are used to know. It gets heavy, and I think that's why we're fortunate to be able to do what we get to do, and just trying to love people, trying to spread love, trying to raise resources for for families that can't afford it, and trying to raise resources for research. It's been a blessing with our Why Not You Foundation. I think that going there this time of year too as well. I think emotionally, I think every kid wants to be able to go to the mall and see Santa, or spend time with their family, and they can't. And so I think, first of all, I think the Seattle Children's Hospital does a great job of trying to make it feel like home. But the reality is, it's not home, And I think that's, how do you bring a little grace, a little love, a little peace there? And I think that's really what we try to do, and hopefully we can do that for a glimpse of a moment.
How have you gotten to know Larry Fitzgerald over the years, and if this were his last game here, just what are your thoughts on his career?
Well, Larry's been, an absolute pro. I think he's been the definition of what you want to be and what you want to admire, and the type of players that you want to say, that's my role model. That's Larry Fitzgerald. He's defined in so many different ways, but he can never be defined because there's so much more that he does, so much more that he represents. He's been a true superstar at the game, one of the best receivers to ever play the game. It's been an honor to share the field with him and exchange jerseys with him. And just the attitude that he brings, the tenacity that he brings, the experience that he brings, the leadership that he brings. But I also think about all the things he does off the field. He has a travel agency. He does so many different things, and I get to see him, at the Super Bowls and different moments and everything else. I haven't played golf with him yet. He keeps inviting me to play golf, but I haven't played with him yet. He's too good, I think. I have to work on my golf game a little bit more. But just being able to get to know him and just being in his presence has always been a true pleasure of mine, and just a blessing, just because I remember watching him, come out of Pittsburgh, and I was little, and seeing this guy. I was like, man, this guy's gonna be amazing, and then seeing him, obviously do what he's done for the Arizona Cardinals and just the league and what he represents has been amazing.
From a football perspective, Russell, not having Josh in the lineup, what might impact that have on the field?
Well, obviously missing Josh is always tough because he's such a great player. You want to have him on the field. But we also won a lot of football games, found a way a lot of winning football games before, and he just added even that much more to the room. And but I think that our guys are ready to roll. They're excited. They're excited to play. And David Moore's going to step up. Malik's going to step up. JB's going to step up, get back in the game a lot more. And so I think that's going to be a good thing for us. And those guys have played great. So have all the trust in the world in all our receiving room. And that room is unbelievable. So it's been cool to be with those guys.
Is Tyler all the way back to you?
Yeah, Tyler's 100%. He's been rolling. He looks faster than before. So I'm excited, to throw him the football.
Anything else? Thanks, Russ.
Thank you guys. Go Hawks. Yep.